It was a quiet Tuesday evening in our gated community, the kind where kids rode bikes until the streetlights flickered on and neighbors waved from perfectly manicured lawns. My wife, Sarah, had been complaining about chest pain all day, but she brushed it off as indigestion from the spicy tacos we'd had for lunch. By 8 p.m., though, she was doubled over on the couch, her face pale, sweat beading on her forehead. "Call 911, she gasped, clutching her arm. My heart dropped like a stone. I grabbed the phone, dialed, and rattled off our address while trying to keep my voice steady. The dispatcher assured me an ambulance was en route. 5 minutes out, I rushed to the front door, propping it open, and stepped onto the porch to watch for the flashing lights. Our neighborhood, Willow Creek Estates, was one of those upscale places with wrought iron gates at the entrance, meant to keep out solicitors and give that illusion of exclusivity. The HOA, led by Mrs. Evelyn Hargrove, a retired school principal with a clipboard perpetually glued to her hand, prided itself on maintaining standards. She'd fined me twice last month for my trash cans being out 10 minutes past pickup time. As I scanned the street, I heard the distant wail of sirens growing louder. Relief washed over me, but then nothing. The sirens cut off abruptly, replaced by honking and shouting from the direction of the main gate, about half a mile down the winding road. I squinted into the dusk, no lights approaching. My stomach twisted. I ran back inside to check on Sarah. She was on the floor now, breathing shallowly. "They're coming, honey. Hold on." Minutes dragged like hours. I called 911 again. "Where's the ambulance?" The dispatcher sounded flustered. "They're at your gate, sir. There's some obstruction. We're sorting it." Obstruction? I bolted out the door, sprinting toward the gate in my slippers, phone still in hand. As I rounded the corner, the scene hit me like a punch. The ambulance sat idling outside the massive gates, red and blue lights painting the twilight, while Mrs. Hargrove stood in front of her white SUV, which she'd parked sideways, completely blocking the entrance lane. She had her arms crossed, arguing with the paramedics through the intercom speaker. "You can't just barge in here without proper authorization," she was yelling, her voice tinny over the speaker. "This is a private community. We have rules about unauthorized vehicles, especially after hours. Noise ordinances, you know?" One of the paramedics, a burly guy with a mustache, leaned out the window. "Ma'am, this is a medical emergency. We have a patient with possible cardiac arrest. Move your vehicle now, or we're calling the police." She huffed, adjusting her pearls. "I'll need to verify with the board first, and your sirens are disturbing the residents. Turn them off." I arrived panting, pushing past a small crowd of neighbors who'd gathered, phones out. "Evelyn, that's my wife. Let them through." She turned, eyes narrowing. "Oh, Mr. Thompson, if this is your doing, you know the gates close at 8 p.m. for security. Emergencies should use the side pedestrian entrance." The paramedic shouted, "We can't carry a stretcher half a mile. Move the car." She shook her head. "Rules are rules. I'll open the gate once I confirm." By now, another neighbor had started filming on their phone. I could hear murmurs, "This is insane. Call the cops." Sarah's life was ticking away, and this power-tripping busybody was playing gatekeeper. Finally, after what felt like eternity but was probably 10 minutes, a police cruiser pulled up behind the ambulance. Someone had called them. The officer stepped out, assessed the situation, and didn't mince words. "Ma'am, you're obstructing emergency services. Move the vehicle immediately, or I'll have it towed and cite you for interference." Evelyn's face turned beet red. "But I'm the HOA president. This community." "Now," the officer barked, grumbling. She climbed into her SUV and inched it forward just enough for the ambulance to squeeze through. The gates creaked open. She'd finally buzzed them in, and the paramedics floored it toward our house. I raced back ahead of them. They burst through our door, oxygen mask, defibrillator pads, the works. Sarah was unresponsive by then. They worked on her frantically, stabilizing her enough for transport. As they loaded her onto the stretcher, one paramedic muttered to me, "We lost critical time there. Minutes matter in a heart attack." At the hospital, the doctors confirmed it. Acute myocardial infarction. She made it barely, thanks to the quick work once they got to her. But the delay? It caused permanent damage to her heart muscle. She'd need ongoing treatment, lifestyle changes, the whole nightmare. Word spread fast in our tight-knit but gossipy neighborhood. Someone uploaded the video from the gate. Shaky footage of Evelyn blocking the ambulance. Her smug declarations about rules. By morning, it was on local news Facebook groups. HOA president blocks ambulance over noise complaint. Wife nearly dies. I didn't sleep that night. Sarah was in ICU, tubes everywhere, and I sat replaying the horror. How could someone prioritize bylaws over a human life? The next day, things exploded. The video hit TikTok, captioned Karen HOA tries to kill my wife for disturbing the peace. Views skyrocketed, hundreds of thousands overnight. Comments poured in. This is criminal. Sue her. Fire the entire HO. Reporters called. Our local station ran a segment. Gated community gatekeeper. HOA standoff delays life-saving care. They interviewed the fire chief. Turns out the paramedics had radioed their department, and the chief was furious. But the real bombshell came 2 days later, when Sarah was stable enough for visitors. The fire department, not just paramedics, but the full engine company, showed up at the Willow Creek gate. This time, no one blocked them. I got a call from a neighbor. You need to see this. By the time I drove over, a crowd had gathered again. Phones out. The fire chief, a no-nonsense woman named Captain Ramirez, stood at the entrance with her crew. Ladders extended, hoses ready. But they weren't responding to a fire. They were conducting an unscheduled inspection. Due to reports of obstructed emergency access, she announced loudly, megaphone in hand, we're required to verify compliance with fire codes. Private roads or not, federal and state law mandates unimpeded access for emergency vehicles at all times. Evelyn rushed out, flustered in her robe. This is harassment. We have rights. Captain Ramirez smiled thinly. Ma'am, blocking emergency responders is a serious violation. We're citing the HOA for multiple infractions. Improper gate operation, lack of Knox box for override keys, and failure to ensure clear access. The crew fanned out, measuring road widths, checking hydrants, tagging violations on signs and gates. One firefighter even climbed a ladder to inspect the gate mechanism. Then came the kicker. Captain Ramirez handed Evelyn a thick envelope. Additionally, your association is being fined $25,000 for endangering public safety, and we're recommending the county revoke your gated status until corrections are made, including installing emergency override systems paid for by the HOA. The crowd cheered. Someone yelled, "Justice!" Evelyn sputtered, but the chief wasn't done. We've also forwarded this to the district attorney for potential criminal charges. Reckless endangerment. The video of this went mega viral. The original ambulance clip had millions of views now, stitched with the fire department's takedown. Hashtags like hashtag HOA Karen and hashtag emergency access matters trended. National news picked it up. CNN, Fox, even late-night shows joked about the HOA that tried to HOA an ambulance. Our little suburb became infamous overnight. Petitions circulated to dissolve the HOA. Board members resigned in droves, terrified of lawsuits. Evelyn's house went up for sale a week later, quietly, through a realtor who specialized in distressed properties. Sarah came home eventually, weaker but alive. We sued the HOA personally and as an entity, settled out of court for a sum that covered her medical bills and then some. But more importantly, the gates now have permanent emergency overrides and the HOA, reformed, toothless, with new rules prioritizing safety over aesthetics. Looking back, that night changed everything. One woman's ego nearly cost my wife her life, but the fire department's reaction? It didn't just save face, it torched the old regime, and the world watched it burn online. The fallout didn't stop at fines and viral videos. Within weeks, the county council held a public hearing on gated communities and emergency access. Dozens showed up, former residents with horror stories, firefighters testifying about delayed responses in similar neighborhoods. Captain Ramirez stole the show again, presenting data. In gated areas without proper overrides, response times increase by an average of 7 minutes. That's the difference between life and death. Our case was Exhibit A. The ambulance delay video played on a loop. Evelyn didn't attend. She'd lawyered up and gone silent. But her absence spoke volumes. The council passed an ordinance overnight. All gated communities in the county must install fire department-approved access systems within 6 months, or face daily fines and potential degating. Willow Creek got a 30-day deadline. In light of recent events, neighbors who'd once nodded along with Evelyn's tyranny now apologized profusely. "We didn't know it was that bad," they'd say, avoiding eye contact. One even baked us cookies, with a note, "Sorry for the HOA nonsense." Sarah's recovery was slow. Physical therapy, meds, doctor visits. Nights she'd wake gasping, reliving the pain. Therapy helped, but the what-ifs haunted us. What if the paramedics had arrived sooner? What if Evelyn had held out longer? I channeled the anger into action. Started a blog anonymously at first. Surviving the HOA heart attack. Shared documents, tips on fighting overreach. It blew up. Thousands of subscribers. Stories flooding in from across the country. My HOA fined me during chemo. They towed my car while I was in labor. The fire department became unlikely heroes. Captain Ramirez invited us to the station for a thank you barbecue. The crew that responded to Sarah's call shook our hands, teary-eyed. "We see delays, but rarely get to see the happy ending," one said. They'd pushed hard internally too. New protocols. Any reported obstruction triggers an immediate multi-agency response. No more arguing with Karens. Ramirez quipped in an interview that racked up another 1 million views. Lawsuits piled on the old HOA board. Class actions from residents fed up with years of petty fines. Insurance rates skyrocketed. The association teetered on bankruptcy. A new board, elected in a landslide, slashed fees, focused on actual maintenance. Evelyn, last I heard, she'd moved to a non-gated condo in Florida. Irony at its finest. Sarah and I, we sold the house once she was strong enough. Moved to an ungated neighborhood with wide streets and nosy but kind neighbors. No clipboard wielders in sight. The videos still circulate years later, a cautionary tale. Comments like, "This is why I'll never buy in an HOA," or "Fire department dropped the mic." It started with a blocked gate and a power-hungry president. Ended with systemic change, one viral reaction at a time. Sometimes, justice doesn't come from courts. It comes from cameras, courage, and a fire chief who'd had enough. We're grateful every day. Sarah's heart is scarred, but beating strong. And whenever we hear sirens, we smile, knowing they'll get through, no questions asked.